Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Collis Stutzer back at it again with another episode of the Collis Stutzer Show. You know, I tell you guys every week that I'm going to come back with a fire guest. And respectfully, the past 2 weeks, I didn't come with guests. So I had to come with a superpower, with high impact, with fire business, with fire person, with fire individual, and just come in and bring you guys a special treat. And today we have Fahteema Parrish on the show. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, good day, buenos dias, buenas noches, wherever you are in the world, bienvenido, all of that cool stuff. My name is Fahteema Parrish. I am the owner and president of Parrish and Sons Construction. Parrish and Sons Construction is a general contractor that's been serving the greater Kansas City area for over half a decade. We've been in business since January 28th of 2015. We self-perform excavation, grading, underground storm, water utilities, aggregate recycling, and hauling. We've been working for clients such as the City of Kansas City, Public Works Department, Parks and Recreation Department, KC Water, the Kansas City Federal Aviation Department, and KC Streetcar. So we've been doing a lot for the city, and just happy to be a part of the community and the ecosystem that allows us to thrive as, minorities and women of color here in Kansas City.
I love it. I love it. And a new thing I'm starting to do is to have my guests go ahead and give a call to action at the beginning of the show because that's where the highest listenership is at. So can you go ahead and let people know how they can get in contact with you for business inquiries, or if someone from the city of Olathe is like, hey, we need somebody to build a building right now, how do they contact you? How do they get a hold of you?
So number one, we always have our website. Our website is www.parishandsonsconstruction.com. So that's P like Papa, ARRISHAND construction.com. And you can always do a Google search, Parrish and Sons Construction or excavators in Kansas City, Missouri. We have our social media platforms, so Facebook, and it's Parrish and Sons on Facebook. And we also have our LinkedIn following. You can just look up me by Fahteema.Parrish or Fahteema_Parrish. And of course, we always have a phone call back to the basics, which is 816-914-1375. And you'll be able to kind of route through the phone system and get connected with someone from our estimating team, someone from our office, and all of those cool things like that. And then there's always word of mouth or stopping by our office. We're always here Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and with the exception of special holidays.
I love it. I love it. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you guys know how to get a hold of her. You guys know how to get, in partnership, get business popping. So go ahead and make that happen if that's something you're interested in. Let's jump right into your story though. So it's 2022 right now. What year were you 10 years old, and what were you thinking you were going to be when you were older?
10 years old. Wow, that's a cool question. So at the age of 10, I was likely following my dad around when, it was evenings and summer breaks or winter breaks, going with him doing service calls. My parents, they owned and operated an HVAC company. So we did heating, cooling, appliance repair. And, this was just for our, the people in our communities, our church members, our neighbors, people that we would meet. And so I would often go with him, passing tools, carrying a drop light, or if we were doing a structural, electrical, or mechanical property inspection, I was the person doing the paperwork. So I'm sitting here, at this age, watching my dad serve the community and provide, affordable, rates for, just different underserved areas, and that stuck with me and has really truly been a part of the eating, living, breathing, sleeping portion of my existence, and that servitude, being able to give back and knowing that, hey, I'm just a vessel here to provide the best opportunities for other people in our communities and around the world.
Absolutely. I love that. And you mentioned, giving back to the community and servitude. So speaking of community, where are you from? What part of town? Are you even from Kansas City? And if you are, talk about where you grew up and how that influenced you and the woman you became today, or have become today.
Becoming, because I'm 41 years old, and I love it. I spend every single day learning, and I can learn from anyone, any being, just by sitting, and observing, watching, an infant and realizing how their personalities are being, formed from day one. I chose to talk to, my son in complete sentences and not baby talk or goo goo gaga. And that, changed the way he started formulating his first sentences. So for me, the reality was that we really have been here, and it's by design. And that intention of what we choose to do with our design, or the gifts that are naturally inside us from birth, from conception. It's a matter of making that conscious choice. We have the spirit of free will, so we are either going to choose to stir the gift and become really, really great at it, or if not just great, but being phenomenal, is when we choose to start those gifts at an early age. But if we kind of fight the gift and, just, choose, differently than what we were designed to, you'll see us kind of drifting for a little while, sometimes, years. But I grew up in Kansas City, born and raised. I went to Catherine B. Richardson Elementary School on 35th, right off of Prospect, and had a lot of really great teachers there that, were a part of my early educational career, being shaped and formed. While I didn't have the best grades, but I had the focus and the dedication. And when you have teachers, elementary, sharing in the encouragement, or sharing in, hey, if you didn't get it right this time, here's some additional steps that you can take to do better. And so as I kind of progressed along my educational careers, it was those teachers and school counselors that, were a part of helping me, stay encouraged and be open and receptive to, different learning styles, different learning techniques that I apply in my, everyday life. So Catherine B. Richardson, that's where I was. And then I kind of progressed, being a middle school, more teachers, more counselors, encouraging, me along the way. In addition to my parents, with that ruler, saying, hey, stay on task, stay on track, and here's how you prepare yourself to be better than we were, because it was about breaking a cycle. We talk about cycles of recidivism, and seeing that, hey, my parents had high school education and some certifications, but for me, they wanted me to go beyond that. And so when we talk about secondary education and what that looks like, and understanding that, hey, I can write a letter to apply for a scholarship, and the content of that application is really about me telling the scholarship, donor, why they should invest in me or believe in me or give money to better myself. And I was like, why not make the time to write the letter and create a template of that letter and revise it and continue to apply? 1 in 30 scholarships. Oh, I got one, 1 in 5. I got another one. And so that helped, progress me through my educational career. And, Penn Valley Community College, I went there on a A+ scholarship, because in high school, we were given the opportunity to mentor and tutor, other high school, other high school students. So if I was a junior, I was mentoring a sophomore and possibly a freshman. And if I was a senior, I was mentoring, the same, a high school sophomore or freshman. And so once you get a certain amount of hours, hey, you get free tuition and books. So I chose to, oh, well, look at that. My light went out. So I chose to, go to Penn Valley Community College, another local school here, part of the MCC campus. And I graduated there with my Associate of Arts in Computer Science and Information Systems. And after graduating from Penn Valley, I wrote more letters, applied for everything diversity, everything computer science, all of these different opportunities. I applied for them. And I got, scholarships after just being, dedicated to making sure that, hey, no matter how many no's I got, I would continue to apply just to make sure that my post-secondary education was funded. So I graduated from Northwest Missouri State up in Maryville, Missouri, with my Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems. And then out of college, I didn't get the job that I ideally wanted. I was actually making less than before going into college. And so I was like, what? I went to school and got this degree and now I'm making less. What is this? Is something wrong? And so that was the big reality check. I graduated with this degree in management information systems. And so I'm like, I want to write code. I want to, go in and develop applications and traverse different log files and, support these applications that manipulate and process and tell us what we should do with all of this data that we're capturing. So how do we manage this information and make meaningful decisions based off of the data that has been captured? So doing that, graduating and getting a job less than what I had going into college, it was just kind of like, okay, keep trying. I got a internship. So that was great. I was able to work at State Street with a team of software developers back in 2000. And they taught me so much. I was, tasked with going into, log into their application in their test environment and try to figure out ways to break or find holes in the application. So that was great. I did that, but then 9/11 happened and the funding didn't get renewed for the internship bucket. So I continued on and ended up continuing my search, and I was placed after multiple interviews at Fortis. Fortis was a employee benefits company that is now Sun Life down on 23rd and Grand, another awesome group of developers that I learned so much from. And it was just an amazing experience. I earned my master's degree from working there. It was, tuition reimbursement, again, zero student loan debt. And so I was like, I'll continue to write the letters. I'll continue to keep my grade point average where it needs to be just so they can continue to reimburse me. So working full time, being a mom, traveling and still going to school, juggling all these balls, just so that I could continue to break through, and break this cycle, and just being encouraged and supported by my parents who were like, we want you to go further, keep pressing. And so that's what I continue to do.
Love it. There's so much I want to touch on there. Let me start by saying every Black queen that I've interviewed on this show has been juggling so much: parent, school, work, thinking about building a business, like just going. And the fact that, all of you guys have been able to handle that and make it happen is super inspiring for me. Just as a young man, and growing up around queens all my life, and them being the source of my inspiration, you guys are adding to that. So I just want to say thank you there. And then on the flip side, I wanted to ask you, who was the most impactful person, do you feel like? I'm sure there's a lot of people that contributed to your journey. I know you mentioned middle school and some of these teachers and counselors. Obviously, you mentioned your father and following him along, and your parents with their HVAC company. And then, I'm sure you've ran into other developers and leaders in some of these positions as you were 20 and in your 30s. So when you think about somebody that really stands out right now at age 41, of somebody that, wow, this person was impactful and is definitely a big reason I'm here today, who do you think of and why?
Hands down, it's my dad and my mom. The combination, of their parenting styles, good cop, bad cop in different areas. My dad, I could do business with any day of the week. My mom, she's always going to listen and she's going to encourage me, but my dad's going to be the one that's like, that's not going to work. And, or, hey, make sure you're considering all of the risk associated with, making this decision. And seeing him go through multiple certifications and seeing, the ebbs and flows of the business, being the patriarch, leading a house full of women, 5 sisters. And so it was a lot of estrogen. So for him to be able to manage, growing a small business and leading a household full of estrogen and still, despite the odds, keep us, safe, that was it. And he remained that stand up guy, and we ended up having a younger brother of the union, and he passed away with RSV, which is respiratory syncytial virus. And it shattered, it shook our family, but it taught us to love harder and be okay giving hugs, and knowing that, for the 14 months of my baby brother's existence, that it's priceless, it's irreplaceable. But what could we do as a family to share in that experience of learning about respiratory syncytial virus to other families with newborns, and hear the things that we wish that we would have known, or we wish that we would have done. So seeing my dad form this 501c3, despite, his baby boy, the goal was, to have a son, to carry on the family name, because, being married, hey, you no longer, have that family name, or, you hope that your husband is supportive of you hyphenating the family name. But it was just really, hands down, my dad and, my mom, that combination. My mom was the numbers person. She was the accountant. She taught me to do math in pencil. What are you doing with this pen? And, she would have that stern ruler and, wanted to see the long form of division. She wanted to see the steps. She wanted me to walk through, the whole process. And so I think hands down, if I could say a combination of the two, my parents being one.
I love it. And, I'm sure there's so many characteristics, like you just mentioned, that they, instilled in you and that you've carried on. And on the topic of character traits and, especially in the role that you hold at Parrish and Sons right now, like when you are meeting different people, whether it's through networking, whether it's through hiring, whether it's through who you're going to work with or who you're going to, do a job for, what are some character traits that really stand out to you that you really value? And maybe what are some supporting reasons behind why those character traits mean so much to you?
So I would say the number one trait for me is being humble. And that means no matter where you are within the organization, there is a respect that is, carried and shown for everyone within the organization, no matter the title, no matter the, shade, no matter the backstory. So that's number one. And when we talk about being humble, the things that come with that is integrity. If I give you my word, I'm going to do my best to keep it. And if something changes that prevents me from honoring that, hey, I'm a phone call away, or, I'm 20 minutes away. Can we talk? Here's what has changed. So that ability to nurture a relationship and, having the brutal, the integrity to be brutally honest about where things are and come up with the action plan to help us grow, from whatever may have changed within that promise that, was given. So just being humble and having integrity.
I love that. I love that. And you're a Kansas City gal. Like you've been here, you've been on every road, you've been doing work, you've been serving, you've been going to school here, you've been watching your parents run business here. You went to Northwest, which a lot of students from the Kansas City metro area go to, and then come back home and keep putting in work in the town. So when you think about some of the friends you had, like growing up, like 16, 17, 18, maybe you're still close with them, maybe you fell off with them. I want to ask you, what do you think, how do those conversations go when they see you running a business, they see a powerful woman killing it, like they see you giving back to the community, like when you re-engage, when you reconnect with old friends from high school, what are some of the conversations you guys are having? Like, what does that look like from, someone seeing you from 15 to seeing you run a business today? I don't know if that question makes particular sense, but I hope you caught it.
It really does. So it makes perfect sense. For me, back in 2009, there was a friend that I had met who was the best friend of my cousin. I had met him in middle school. So I was 12, he was 13, and we ended up reconnecting at a different phase in our lives because we had known each other since middle school, and him and my cousin were best friends. And so when my little brother passed, he ended up coming to the funeral. When my cousin passed, we reconnected again, coming to the funeral. And in 2009, we reconnected again, just in general after he had been, trying to catch up. And what the conversation was is kind of like recapping where, we were currently in life and what were the goals that we would like to have achieved. And, thrust that forward to 2011, 2010, it ended up being my husband. He would come by, helping me work on my motorcycle, helping me do a oil change or a tune up on my car. And it was a lot of our, life goals had been in alignment. I had a son and he had a son, and we were like, yeah, I want a daughter. You want a daughter. And so he was like, I've been doing heavy equipment operating with my dad. And I was like, wow, I've been doing, HVAC, with my dad. And I've been doing property management and all these other businesses that I tried and failed forward from. And so we ended up getting married and talking about, what legacy businesses look like. And I was like, I've had all these other businesses. And, if you think you can be great at this, I know I can manage anything. And so this person from my middle school, my childhood, I ended up reconnecting with him multiple times throughout the years. And, in 2009, we ended up taking things one step further. And that's really, just it. He was like, wow, you're doing all these amazing things. And at that time, I had been pretty heavily into our foundation that my dad created for my little brother when he passed. And so we were doing Rip the One Rave fashion shows, spreading RSV awareness and style. And so we had a couple years of, raising money, working with local artists and giving models the opportunity to, walk at the gym theater. And then there was another theater that we hosted the very first fashion show fundraiser with, and we would go to different daycares, passing out brochures, talking about respiratory syncytial virus, what it was and how you prevent it, and all this cool stuff. But that person from childhood is my husband, of 12 years now. So
Congratulations. And I love it. I'm glad I asked that question. We got a nice love story out of it. I love it. So I know we're short on time, so I want to ask you one final question right here. And that question is, what is one of the best investments? It could be of time, of energy, or money, but what is one of the best investments you've ever made that like the ROI is powerful? It's there. Like when you're looking at it in 2022, you're like, well, wow, that definitely paid off. What's the best investment? And again, it could be money, time, or energy that you ever made.
Continued education, my time to continue with my education. I can't say it enough. I will spend the rest of my life learning, and I'm okay with that. And knowing that my education continues each day and accepting that is the biggest investment of my time, because it's only going to allow me to grow and understand so many different aspects of life. When you talk about diversity, when you talk about being inclusive and being actionable about how we make things equitable, it's about understanding and learning about the cultures of everyone. So continuous education.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for your time today. I'm glad that we were able to, touch base and have a conversation a little bit more about you. I know probably a lot of interviews that might come through might be specifically on the business, but I'm glad we got to touch a little bit more on your life story, a little bit about your journey. And I'd love to make a part 2 out of this because I had about 70 more questions. But no, I really enjoyed this conversation and getting to learn a little bit more about you. Before we leave here today, can you give maybe one piece of advice to whoever you want it to be? You can target it at women, you can target it at everyone, you can target it at me, you can target it at literally whoever you want, but just one piece of advice or one maybe quote or word that you want the people who are listening to this right now to, dwell upon for the rest of today.
can do all things through Christ. He is the provider of our strength. Anything is attainable, just accepting the challenge and knowing that you just have to be prepared to do the work. So embrace change, accept the challenge, do the work, be actionable. And when you fall down, get back up, fall forward, learn from it, apply it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and your time. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up today?
No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'll continue to serve and do my best.
Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you leave a 5-star review, as that is the only way this podcast can grow. Please share if you enjoyed this conversation. And more importantly, go back to the first 2 minutes of this episode and listen to the CTA, the call to action. Go follow her. Go support her. Go support your local businesses. Go get that money up. Whatever you need to do to go support her, do it. Let's be great. Let's have an amazing day. Again, thank you so much for your time. And that is a wrap.